Good evening.
Good evening, my dear Tony Rathman, my sweet friend, my star brother. 6 months ago, you came back to me as the producer of the show. Unfortunately, you live out west. I live in the east, and we found out that with a change of jobs, that you just couldn't get home in time to do the show. So when that all happened, Bill at KGRA took over the production. Even though you kind of still run the show, he did
Right.
all the technical
You did the
things.
legwork. Yep.
Yep. And well, no, that's not true. You do the legwork too. You always put the show together every week, and you do a splendid job. And oh God, I miss you already. I can't believe it. I can't.
I know. I can't believe 6 months has evaporated in a blink of an eye. Just it's incredible. Yeah, time changes back on the 12th, and we don't actually change time in Arizona, but we change time zones. So we go from mountain to Pacific, and by the time your show starts at 6, I mean, I have another half hour, 45 minutes of work. I don't usually get out until 6:30 or later. And so, yeah, it just makes it tough to do, near impossible, I'm afraid.
Yeah, near impossible. And the thing is that you tried it for a while, and it was just too stressful. And it was stressful for me too, because I was worried about you. And all it takes is one traffic jam, and the show is shot to hell. So I'm just so grateful to have had you for these 6 short months, and I know that I will have you back again. I know that I will. There's no question. I mean, this is your baby with me. We started this whole thing. I called you up, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I said, I want to reboot my show. Would you like to produce it? And you're like, oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no hesitation there. I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah. Yes, I very much appreciate it. And Peanut has something to say, too.
Oh, there she is.
Uncle Tony is the very, I know, is the very best. He is the very best friend and very best producer. And she's going to help me co-host tonight with the show.
Right.
She is. She's going to be right here in my lap. And I'm wearing, right behind me, I have a new Mandalorian blanket that Lenny sent me, showed up in the mail today. And I have a shirt on that says, you can't see it all, but it's my human costume.
How cool.
Human costume. And so she sent me a box of goodies today to cheer me up. And, of course, everybody that knows me knows that yesterday was the anniversary of my sister April's passing. She actually died late at night, but just before midnight on the 8th. And the reason that I know that is because she has told me through 3 different spirit box sessions where I keep asking her the same question over and over, just to make absolutely certain that number 1, it was an accident, and number 2, it was before midnight. So, leave it to April to screw up her own death date, because officially she's listed as March 9th, but she passed away just before midnight on March 8th, according to her. And Cody and Satori verified that for me as well, too, during the session with them. So,
that was, 6 years ago now?
6 years ago, yeah, and it feels like 6 seconds.
Right.
And in some ways, 60 years. It feels like time is lost. Time is completely obscured when it comes to the trauma, the tragic immediacy of it. That like in the last couple of days, I've been having those, that whoosh of adrenaline that passes through you. Like it just happened, and I can't explain that or why. And I'm really tired of the sweats that, come suddenly. It was a very shocking thing.
Right.
And so sudden and really, truly unexpected. So, yesterday my mother pretty much slept through the day. and I don't blame her for that. I wish
Right.
I could
Right.
have. I just kept myself busy trying to, get the show all arranged for tonight and take care and do some writing about it. And, it's the oddest thing. And we all lose loved ones. We all lose people that we adore, and then they're gone. And I think part of the reason why, physically they're gone. But I really do believe that part of the reason why we're so drawn to and fascinated by all things paranormal is, based on all that I've experienced and so much of what you've experienced, particularly delving so deeply into the research and the experiences that you've had as an investigator over the years. It makes you have to come to grips with the fact that it's not all over and done with
Right.
at death.
Right.
That there is something else and something more, and yet that's not satisfying. It's not. I mean, I know she's in a better place. I know she's happy. I know she's at peace. But we all miss the hell out of her. And not having her physical form to wrap in our arms or, slap her real hard when she's being a jerk, which I had done a couple of times with April, like, shut up. It's proof that life is not fair. And I've heard from several different sources something that I truly, truly believe, and I think is lyrical and poetic and beautiful, and that is that grief is love with no place left to go.
That is well put. Very well put.
Yep. So anyway, I'm so glad to be able to be with you. And tonight, Tony, we turn the page. Not only do I lose you as my producer for an indefinite period of time, but I know that you will be back, that we will be together again. It's not death. It's a different kind of transition.
Right.
But it's also a big transition because I've decided, with my mother's condition and all my other responsibilities, that it's time for me to compress what I do into a shorter period of time and claim back my Monday. So, those of you that follow A World Awakening might know that I also do this wonderful little show on KGRA with Jeff Turner, who is a dear friend and a brilliant man, a gentleman and a scholar, if one ever existed. And he has been a joy in my life and a bright light in the firmament, but has also taught me so much. And it is such a pleasure for me every week or every time I can get him to share him with our viewers. Now, the issue that you've got with the time and the work and the job and all of that, Jeff has had to juggle as well.
Yeah.
And so we talked about it a couple of weeks ago and said, okay, why don't we shave an hour off of A World Awakening on Friday nights and do Soul School Sojourn back to back? I'll do my show with Jeff from 9 to 10, and then I'll have my second show with, whatever guest we've chosen, for that particular night. But tonight we've got him for the whole 2 hours. So
That's awesome.
Or almost, because I've been running my mouth for 11 minutes.
That works quite well though for you, because there are some real consistencies between, even though they're different shows and cover slightly different things, the connection between the two of them is solid in between. So those will flow very nicely back to back. So I think that'll work well for you.
Well, just know that when you leave me and you come back, you'll have 2 shows to produce instead of 1.
All right.
Okay.
Deal.
Wonderful. You know Jeff. So.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy. I mean, we've had him on
a couple
of times now, and I always get an opportunity to, briefly talk with him before the show starts and stuff, but just a wealth of knowledge and his own personal experiences of what he went through from, being in the religious order to stepping aside from it and what he's learned. And he's got some fantastic outlooks on life and what's happening with it and what you should take from it and what you should ignore. And so he's always a pleasure to listen to speaking because he's got some just fantastic ideas and thoughts. So.
Yes, he does. He does indeed. And a little later on, Ken DaCosta is going to hop in and join us as well. And, Tony, hang tight. And any questions, these, you're my guys. And, so please feel free to be as much of a part of this show as humanly possible. Did you eat dinner yet?
I did. My Cherie actually bought me a wonderful salad and soup, and it was absolutely delicious. In fact, somebody made a comment. I saw it as we were opening the show. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Where'd it go? I can't. I can't. Oh, here it is.
Melissa, it figures. You got, she's a trip. I love that.
She is. She's great. She follows us on our shows as well, but she's a great one to have in the audience because she's really into all the stuff that happens within the paranormal, and she's involved with a lot of it, and it's great to see her here as well. So.
Yes, it really is. It means the world to me. She's one of our closest parapeeps. Marvelous. Well, let's bring Jeff on, and we'll get this ball rolling. I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
All right, here he comes.
Okay, thanks, Tony.
Hey.
Hi. Oh, gosh, you look all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Almost like you have a little bit of rouge. You're just perfect lighting.
Well, yeah, I was getting my makeup done while you guys were talking. I'm glad to know it's showing.
Oh, it's so good to welcome you. I want people to know that, even though we are compressing the 2 shows together, they will be just as full of light and love as, what we do separately and distinct. And it just seems to me that Tony's right, that these are 2 shows that are very complementary. They're not alike in so many words. We cover Jonathan, Michelle.
Hey, everybody.
See, everybody loves you. See, I told you they'd all be here.
Well, I love them too.
Yep. But this is also, I know that it was a little upsetting at first. It's like, oh, Annie, I can't get home from work. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, that's okay. But I want to share you with the world. I think that you are one of the most brilliant and beautiful souls, and you have a mind that I think it behooves everybody and anybody to listen to you speak, to delve into your philosophy and your netherworld, that special place that you inhabit that is so filled with concepts and knowledge and light and love. And this is an opportunity in prime time on a Friday night on KGRA to spotlight you in a way that we couldn't do at the dinner hour on a Monday night. It's just most of our viewers watched the archive. They weren't able to watch our live show. That's not the case with The World Awakening because it had a jump start. It had a head start. And so, Tony and I have brought you on a couple of times and we've talked about, myriad different things. But now this is going to be your spot every Friday night from 9 to 10. And I know you'll be home from work by then. I know you will.
Be. Yeah. Oh, I better be. Yeah.
So one of the things that we're going to do a little bit later on is bring in Ken DaCosta, because we have news, and we're going to expand our reach even farther by working with Ken, who is also, his show is also simulcast on KGRA. But you and I, and when Tony comes back, and in the interim, we're going to be simulcasting on Dead Air Full Spectrum, which used to be Dead Air Paranormal, and now the network is Dead Air Full Spectrum, starting next week. So there are, many thousands of viewers that may or may not know about our little shows, Soul School and AWA, but they will. And so that's the whole idea, isn't it? Just to extend our message as far and wide as we possibly can. Yeah. Are you excited about it? The whole concept of this?
Oh, very much so. And I'm honored too. I'm very honored. I was watching your show on Friday nights before I ever dreamt I'd ever be a part of it. So it's I'm really honored. I'm very honored.
Well, thank you, sweetheart. But it's really me. I mean, I know we're a long-term mutual admiration society, but it goes both ways, because you make me better at what I do, and you lift me up. You enlighten me. You make me aware. Oh, Jen, great to have Soul School back to back with World Awakening. Oh, great. Oh, excellent, Jen.
Nice.
Yep. See, there's a case in point. Jen couldn't watch it on Monday night. So if she caught it at all, it had to be in the archive. And now that's going to change. And I think a World Awakening, it was great as a 2-hour show, but most of the really important stuff, there's almost something about condensing it, that all the important stuff is just going to come right to the surface, so that we make sure that everything gets said in a 1-hour period instead of drawn out more over a 2-hour period. And, I value people's time too. Yeah. I want them to get the most they can get out of this 2-hour slot on Friday nights. And so coupling Soul School and World Awakening seems the most logical thing that we could possibly do. And then it frees us both up on Monday nights, me to take care of my mother and you to take care of your family, and just getting on, keep on keeping on.
Right.
So it's marvelous. So, okay, so I had some thoughts, and today I think is the first time since we started our show, Soul School Sojourn, that we didn't really touch base about what we would talk to, but I just want everybody to know, in this time slot from now on is going to be Soul School Sojourn, and this is how we begin the show. Class is in session. And we always remind our viewers that we're as much the students as we are the teacher. And the most important thing about Soul School is, at least for me, and I think for you as well, kind of our concept of our earthly trip, that we come here to Soul School to learn our lessons well and to spiritually evolve. Some do and some don't. Some have to come back again and again. According to a lot of spiritualists, it's a cyclical soul thing. It's not even just reincarnation, but you have to go from grade 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. There's a succession that needs to occur for you to arrive at a certain point of consciousness and awareness, not only of yourself, but of the world. And the thing that sucks about Soul School is that the test always precedes the lesson. So it's absolutely in the reverse of what we think of as a conventional school setting, where the teacher teaches you something and then you take the test to confirm that you absorbed that information.
Yeah.
And this is in the reverse, which is like often seems like, a crapshoot.
Mhm.
We did a show recently where we talked about consistency and chaos.
Yeah.
And my take on that was that the consistency is an illusion, that chaos is our reality,
And that
that
chaos is the consistency.
together and make some sense
Yep.
out of it,
Yeah.
and build the puzzle and put all these pieces together and make it work. And it's an incredibly challenging way to exist.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, everything in the universe, the only thing in the universe that is constant is change.
Yeah.
And so I always love to say, just, because the universe is all fluxed up, and we're a part of it.
Yeah.
And so in that flux, in that perpetual motion that we exist in, we have often examined the concept that, the past is dead and gone, the future is yet to exist, and that all we have is the present. So we have discussed existentialism. We have discussed most of the major philosophers and their take on it. We've talked about William Paley, The Watch and the Watchmaker, the thesis offered as proof of the existence of God. I mean, we've gotten into a lot of the realms where religion and philosophy interlock, they connect. And sometimes we've pulled them apart and examined both. So what do you want to talk about tonight, Jeff?
Yeah. Well,
go for it.
That's a dangerous thing to ask me. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's always a dangerous thing to ask me because I've always got a million thoughts going through my head.
Do it.
Well, here's what I've been kind of pondering today, and I actually don't know because I live in my head so much. Sometimes I'm like, did we talk about this on the show, or did I just talk to myself about this? I don't know, but I was thinking about this concept today. It was in my head today and the day before. I was thinking of the Nietzschean idea, Friedrich Nietzsche, probably one of my favorite philosophers. I don't know why. I've just always been a Nietzsche guy. But I was thinking of his ideas on the concept of eternal recurrence.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring this up just because we were talking about Soul School, the cyclical nature of life, the repeating pattern. And he first mentions it in his work, The Gay Science, right? Where he talks about the idea, this idea where he says, like, suppose one night a demon came to you and said to you that you must relive every moment, right? Every moment of your life that you've lived thus far. You must live this again endlessly, over and over and over for eternity. You're going to relive this same life over and over and over again. He was like, depending on how you live your life, that could either sound to you like the heralding of some, of good news. That could either sound to you like the angel's proclamation on the night of Christ's birth, or it could sound to you like the groanings and growlings of a demon, depending on how you live your life. And so he says there in that passage something along the lines of, you ought to live your life in such a way where you taste such joy and experience love so much in just one moment that you would relive every second that you've lived just to get to that one moment again. And this is a concept that bothered him. You can tell it very much was eating away at him on the inside. And toward the end of his life, he talked about the idea of eternal recurrence in a slightly different way. I have this pendant that I wear all the time. It says amor fati, which is a Stoic phrase, which means love your fate, basically. Love what's happening to you, love what's happened to you, love your fate. The love of one's fate, I think, is probably the technical term. And so Nietzsche, one of the most frightening symbols in religious symbology, the one that seems to strike fear into the hearts of people, is that symbol of the Ouroboros, the serpent, devouring its own tail.
Right? Yeah.
And that's the symbol of eternal recurrence. That just says that everything repeats itself over and over and over again. And there's like the larger fear of that symbol that manifests itself in religion and in philosophy. And then there's the sort of miniature version of that we see on display in like self-help movements and things like that, where people are just trying to break the cycles in their daily lives. And then in the larger scheme, people are trying to break those cycles like cosmically, to keep themselves from being reincarnated into the same life again, or whatever, however one wants to look at it.
And another point too is the myth of Sisyphus, where Sisyphus rolls the boulder up the mountain and it rolls back down the other side. And he has this eternal struggle of rolling the boulder up and coming down on the other side. And instead of it being torment, he eventually comes to terms with it and comes to peace with it as his purpose.
Right. Which is what Camus says. We must imagine Sisyphus happy, right? That when he gets the ball to the top of the hill, he peeks over and sees whatever. I can't remember the language. It's been a while since I've read the book, but it's a great climax to his whatever. But we must imagine that he takes some kind of joy in that. So but Nietzsche's idea then was that, so this idea of eternal recurrence, that everything repeats itself, that you have to live the same life over and over and over again endlessly. It's a terrifying concept, and religion tries to figure out ways out of it, and philosophy tries to figure ways out of it. We in miniature in our daily lives try to figure ways out of it. The conclusion Nietzsche came to was that this amor fati is actually the key to overcoming it. Loving and accepting one's fate, loving and accepting everything that's happening, not because it's wonderful, because it rarely is. It's not even a 50-50. It's usually like a 90-10. But he was like, but still, it's the moment when you can allow yourself to just be still and realize I don't have to love what's happening to me right now because what is happening to me is wonderful. But I can know that what's happening to me right now is ultimately what's going to make me a better person, in the same way that when something, situation A happened to me 10 years ago, I never in a million years could have seen that as being a positive thing at that time. But now 10 years later, I look back on it and I'm like, the experience wasn't a positive. The experience was still shit. However, what it produced in me, as shit has a tendency to do, was fruitfulness. It fertilized the soil of my life, and something beautiful came forth as a result. And so I can, using Bayesian reasoning, prior probability, make the same assumption about what I'm going through right now, even though I haven't been there or seen the future outcome yet. I can assume that the same will be true of this situation that was true of that situation and all the situations before it, that somehow, some way, this is working itself out. It's working in my favor. There's a great biblical principle that, all things work together for the good of the individual, that whatever happens to you somehow, some way, and it has to do with what we do with it as well, but it's molding you, it's shaping you into the person that you ultimately will be, whether you ask to be that person or not. And so,
let me just interject quickly here. 10 years ago, could you imagine that you would be sitting in front of your computer doing this show with me? We didn't know each other 10 years ago, but everything that you went through prepared you for now. So that what you learned, you could impart to others. And they can take from it whatever they will. But it was really a gift, even in hardship, given to you, which you processed and used to become a stronger person, a more enlightened man. And now look what you're doing and how many lives you're touching.
And you experience things like that enough, you're able to conclude that the next one is going to turn out the same way, and you know what I'm saying? Like, you live through situations like that enough, you can kind of, you begin to assume that, okay, this sucks right now. There's no way to say this does anything but suck. It hurts. It sucks. However, I've been in a similar place before, and I felt a similar way before, and I've had similar doubts about the ultimate outcome of something like this before, and it shocked me. I ended up being shocked and in awe at the results. And so I can assume that this situation is going to end up the same way. And so you come to a place where you can accept everything that's happening to you, not the actions of people, not whatever abuse is being hurled at you, but you can accept the fact that somehow, some way, this is working in your favor ultimately, that you are being, Another great biblical principle says that, mercy and goodness follow me all the days of my life. That's ultimately what's happening to me, is mercy and goodness are manifesting themselves in my life. And it just doesn't always look like mercy and goodness to me in the moment, but that's what the end result will be. Anyway, so Nietzsche's idea was simply that, that's the key to, instead of trying to break the cycle, I accept the cycle. And when I accept it, it transforms in front of me and it becomes something different than it would be if I kept rejecting it and trying to separate the tail from the head. When I stop and see the beauty in what's happening, instead of trying to violently pull it apart, when I accept it and I can receive it and see the beauty that's happening in this circle, all of a sudden I see what I could not see before. Another great biblical example is when Jesus, he's in the wilderness with a bunch of followers of his, and everyone's starving and on the verge of fainting because of the heat and exhaustion and malnutrition. And there's a young boy there who has a couple very small pieces of food in his lunch. And, his disciples are like, Jesus, we need to feed these people. We don't have any food. And they say, you've brought us to a barren place. And Jesus says, well, look, what does this young boy have? And they're like, you think that's enough to feed this multitude? No way. And it says that Jesus then took, the very small amount that this young boy had, and he gave thanks for it. And when he gave thanks for it, it multiplied, and they fed a multitude with this very small, this very small portion. And, it's kind of like the double slit theory, the observer, or the double slit experiment, the observer effect, that how you observe something determines how that thing behaves, And so if you observe it as being something that, it's lack and there's not enough and there's this, that, or the other, that's how it will behave for you. But if you observe a thing as containing all that you need and being abundant, it will behave that way for you. And so it is with this circle, this circular, cyclical movement that Nietzsche saw of eternal recurrence. He was like, as long as you're trying to escape it, you never will, and you will always experience it as being a terrible and terrifying thing. But when you stop and you say, amor fati, I love my fate, I love what's happening to me, all of a sudden the same thing behaves differently for you, and you begin to see the beauty in it. And it's not necessarily the fact that it changes, but you are able to experience it in a way that you would not have been able to experience it
because
otherwise.
Your perspective shifts.
Exactly.
It's not that the experience shifts or the thing shifts.
Yeah.
It's that your perspective on it has achieved a paradigm shift in understanding.
Yeah. And there's always more present in what's in front of you than you see, and when your perspective shifts, all of a sudden you can see it. There's a certain class of angel in scripture that's said to be covered in eyes, right? And I know that's symbolic and metaphorical. Otherwise, that's just terrifying.
That would be totally crazy.
Yeah. As a kid, that always bothered me. It's like, because I hated getting stuff in my eyes. I'm like, what if I had eyes on my hands and everything I'm touching?
I know. Yeah.
But
as children, we take everything literally. So I totally get it.
Right. So 3D is you perceive the height and the width and the depth of something, right? Yes. If you cover one of your eyes, you lack depth perception. So you can perceive a thing's height and its width, but not its depth. So if you cover your eyes, you're not perceiving depth. Now, if you normally see through two eyes, you know what depth is. So even if you cover one eye, you can still, what depth is, because that's how you normally experience the world. But if you've never been able to perceive depth, let's say you only had vision in one eye, there's a whole dimension that's hidden from you, right? And I remember watching a documentary years ago about a woman who had only had vision. I don't remember the condition, but it was something along the lines of she had only had vision in one eye, never perceived depth, and she had been doing some exercises and things like that with a doctor, some surgery, whatever, to try to regain sight in this other eye. And that all of a sudden, one day, it just opened. And she was in her kitchen, and she said she just sat there staring at the faucet for like an hour because she couldn't believe it's like, whoa, it's protruding outward and coming at me. She wasn't seeing the world as flat anymore. She was seeing depth. There was a whole dimension that we take for granted because we live in it and experience it daily 24/7. But this woman, her entire life, had never been able to perceive it. And when suddenly she regained sight in that eye, a whole new world opened up to her. So there are organs, sensory organs, that are of the heart, that are of a spiritual nature, that most of us don't perceive reality through. And what happens when those things turn on? A whole world opens to us that was closed to us before. And that's why I bring up the angels who are covered with eyes, because that's how, I guess that's kind of an ideal to shoot for, to have the ability to just perceive all these different dimensions that we don't even have words for right now, right? And so like something like gratefulness and stopping and saying, like Jesus, this young boy's lunch is presented to him. Everybody else is just seeing two dimensions. But through gratefulness and thankfulness, he was able to peer into and perceive a much larger world. And when he did that, it manifested itself outwardly. And so it is with the situations of life we find ourselves in. We perceive it as this flat, two-dimensional reality. But when we look at it through the eyes of love, through the eyes of gratefulness, however, whatever, things open up to us that were previously closed to us, and it transforms our life. And so, I don't know, that was just, those are some thoughts I was having today, and we could tease those out for a while. Anyways, I throw that out there. Yeah.
To extrapolate it out a little bit,
Yeah.
Let's talk about the purpose of opening the third eye. For instance, people are always wanting to experience other realms, other dimensions. They believe in the spirit realm, ghosts, for lack of a better word. And great show on CBS, by the way, Ghosts.
I just watched the newest episode tonight. It's my favorite show.
It's fabulous.
Yes, it is. The British version is great too.
I know. So I have heard. I haven't watched that yet. I'm so, caught up with our American ghosts right now with their British accents. It's so great. But, I think that part of opening the third eye, which one can either achieve on their own or it can be expedited, through meditation or work. I have a method for helping people to achieve that, which I do frequently whenever I'm with groups of people, and somebody will walk up to me and say, "Can you open up my third eye?" I'm like, "Yep, hold on just a second." Drag them over to a corner, spend a couple of minutes, and, inevitably what I get in response for doing this little thing that I do, which was a gift from the Galactic family. It was not something that I developed on my own. I take no credit for it whatsoever. But I've been to the other side. I've been in other dimensions. I've experienced things. In other words, as I so frequently say, I have been given the opportunity to look at our old reality with new eyes. And our old reality is perceived by most as a 3D, 5-sensory realm. But once that third eye is open, once you are able to perceive and communicate with spirit, once you are able to open yourself up as a contactee to communicate with our galactic family, once you start to understand that all of this that you're perceiving now has always existed, you didn't perceive it. So the woman that could only, that didn't have the depth perception until her eye popped open, and then she stared at her faucet for an hour because she couldn't believe what she saw. I get that. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get my first pair of glasses until I was 5 years old. And I couldn't walk. I literally couldn't walk. It changed my sight so drastically that, until then, nobody understood that I had a severe astigmatism. Nobody understood why I needed to sit so close to the TV to see everything. Why I would describe things as wavy. And then my sight was suddenly 20/20, and it blew my mind. And I felt like I was always walking down like at a pitch. It took a while to adjust to that change. Well, when I do what I do with people about the third eye, several things happen. they get very lightheaded.
Mhm.
They lose their equilibrium. That I hold on to them. I literally hold on to their shoulders and assure them that I will not let them fall
Yeah.
until they adjust to this change. And I never do it without telling them that this changes everything. It can't be undone. You can't unhear, unlearn, unsee, unfeel, unthink anything. So once it's done, that's it. And you
Yeah.
decide how to work with it or try to, turn your back on it if need be, if it's too much to take in, because it is a complete shift in the way that you will perceive your existence and your reality from that point forward in your life.
Mhm.
So it's very, very similar to what Nietzsche described. That the opening up, the unfolding, the acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think that, as we've talked about many times on Soul School, I think that all of this applies to the concept of fear. How so many people uh, live in a little bit of a box, compartmentalized, because that feels safe and comfortable. And very often, fear of stepping outside that box is what keeps them in it, what rules their life. They relinquish their power, their personal power, and their decision making to fear. And what I tell folks all the time is what I discovered at a young age is that when you embrace fear and thank it for the role that it has played in your life, and you explain to it that it has only a certain function and it is an emotional tool.
Yeah.
It's that tap on the shoulder that keeps you out of trouble, making bad decisions, etc.
Mhm.
Once you embrace it, it no longer has any power over you. Once you tell fear that you love it and the role that it plays in your life, but it cannot rule your life. It
Mhm.
can function in context with it, but it cannot rule it.
Mhm.
And once you reclaim your power, it has to relinquish back to you what you originally gave over to it.
Mm.
And so I think fear and love are in competition in terms of the most powerful and meaningful emotions that we experience. I think that's kind of the king and queen on a chessboard full of pawns. And we need to pay attention to it, because if we're going to live our fullest and our best life, we don't want to end that life filled with regret. I was too afraid to do this. I was too afraid to have that relationship. I stepped away from it. I was too afraid to learn how to sail. That's all I ever wanted to do, but I was too afraid to drown. Too afraid to drown.
Yeah.
No. So what's your take on that?
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
That's always the best way to go. Always, whenever possible, agree with me wholeheartedly.
Yes, I've learned that. No. It just also so happens that I just typically do. So, yeah, I grew up in fundamentalist Christianity, and we were baptized in fear, and again, I add the caveat, my parents weren't this way, but the culture was this way. My parents actually created a very safe environment, but the culture was that. And so regardless of how good of a job they did, I couldn't help but be affected by it. So I grew up just absolutely basting in fear of judgment, fear of hell, fear of missing the rapture. If you don't know what that is, thank God you don't know.
Thank God you don't know, because yeah.
Fear of demons and things like that. I mean, dude, I grew up in a tradition where you say the wrong word, you watch the wrong thing on television, you let the wrong words pass through the speakers of your television into your home, and you're opening up doors to demons and God only knows what. And, I also grew up in a home that was, haunted, for lack of a better term. So I also had those kind of scars to deal with, and you couple it with that kind of bad theology, you torment yourself. So I grew up with a lot of fear, and I also grew up being taught that fear was sinful. You know what I mean? Because fear is the opposite of faith in that camp. And so anything that is not of faith is sin. There's a New Testament passage that's taken woefully out of context, where anything that's not of faith is sin. So if fear is not of faith, then if you're in fear, you're in sin. And if your whole life is about fear, you feel like your whole life is lived in sin, and then that causes more fear. And so it's a great negative feedback loop we were caught in. But fear just always had this stigma attached to it. And but I've come to, as you were just saying about fear, I've come to find that fear is actually a great friend of mine. And you can't be courageous without fear. Nope. Fear is what unlocks your full potential when you face it, when you put your shoulders back and you face it and you move into it, right? Dude, I mean, I'm a big Batman fan, okay? I am. There's a lot of, I try to play it pretty cool in life and act like I'm just a pretty smart dude and whatever, but I'm absolutely obsessed with Batman, and I have been.
You're a Batman geek.
I very much am. You can't see my bookshelf behind me, but it's pretty much nothing but philosophy books and Batman action figures.
Are you a fan of Bat Dad on the internet? Have you ever?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But I aspire to be that cool. But
oh God, he has probably so fucked up his kids.
Oh, and probably.
Yet they seem to adore him, so I guess it's working.
Yeah. But one of my favorites. There's so many different iterations of Batman, but the Christopher Nolan trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, is probably my favorite. One of my favorite sets of movies. I watch it annually on my birthday. They're like almost 3 hours. So every year on my birthday, I make my whole family sit down and watch at least one of them. And but over the last couple of weeks, I've been a little bored and had a little extra time on my hands. So I watched all three of them just on my own. And in the last of them, of the trilogy, there's a great scene where, spoiler alert, but this came out in 2012. So if you haven't seen it
by now,
you deserve to have it spoiled for you, man. Right. But where Bruce Wayne, Batman, has been like broken by Bane, who's the big bad in that movie, and he's in this prison. And the thing about the prison is that there's a big hole. You can see the outside world, and there's a rope where you can try to climb. And that's part of the torture of the prison, is that you're supposed to be being poisoned by hope, that you can see there's a way out, but you can never really get out. And so it's kind of this particular movie very closely follows Joseph Campbell's hero's journey motif. And so he begins, just out of like rage and anger trying to escape, and he can never get out. He's always, he gets halfway up and then he falls and whatever.
Excuse me.
And his cellmate tells him, like, fear is why you fail. And he says to his cellmate, he's like, I'm not afraid, I'm angry. And then he goes and he tries to climb again and he falls. And at the end of the movie, his cellmate tells him, no, you don't understand what I'm telling you. Fear is why you fail. This is like, it's not that you're afraid and that's why you fail. It's that you don't let yourself be afraid. And that's why you fail. You climb up with a rope tied around you, which means that you still have another option. If you fall, you're going to live. He's like, but if you truly embrace fear by climbing without the rope, you only have one option. You either make it out or you die, and that's it. And he's like, so face the fear. That's why you failed, because you won't face the fear. You're angry, you're pissed off, but you're still, you still have a way out, but face the fear. And when he does, of course, there's this great music and bats fly out and it's great. And he makes it out ultimately, but really, that's the truth of the matter. The moments in my life where I've just faced the fearful thing head on, and was like, all right, come on, you bastard, let's dance. You know what I mean? And just went for it. The most transformative moments and experiences of my life. When I was a pastor for 12 years of my life, this was my career. This is what I studied for. This is how I paid my mortgage. This is how I sent my kids to private school and all the great things I was able to do for my family. It was because this was my career. I was pretty good at it, I think, if I do say so myself. And I loved it, but I was having some inner struggles. I wasn't believing certain ways anymore, and certain things didn't make sense to me anymore. I couldn't preach certain doctrines anymore because I didn't believe these certain ways anymore. And it was terrifying, but I faced it head on. And I let that old what's the word I'm looking for? That old, just very fragile form of faith that I had. I let it fall apart. I faced it, and I came out on the other side of it absolutely transformed. I not only faced the fear of my faith unraveling, I faced the fear of leaving behind a career that was the only thing I knew. And I mean, it almost killed me for about a year. It was really rough. There was a really rough year that I went through, but I faced it, and I came out on the other side of an absolutely transformed individual. Literally, if I were to meet the Jeff of 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I'd probably not recognize that as myself. I've absolutely transformed as a person. I'm so much more open. I'm so much more loving, and I think a better person because of it. But I had to face fear head on. It was terrifying to me, but it unlocks you. Fear unlocks you. There is so much more to you than you know. And if you live your whole life dodging fearful and terrifying things, you remain a very, very limited version of yourself. But when you push into it,
ultimately, I think unfulfilled, because
absolutely,
you can't be a hero. You can't exhibit real courage unless you grab fear by the balls and twist. You just have to do it. Yep. It's ugly. It's painful. You just have to do it.
Yep.
It's, and I learned that at such a young age that I've lived my life fearlessly, my whole adult life. And I certainly don't live recklessly, but I'm not afraid of anything.
Yeah,
I'm not. And because of that, because I choose to live in the light, because I've seen the dark side of existence, and I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to interact with it. I don't want to engage with it. And nothing dark comes near me because it just doesn't dare. I will evaporate it. I will just evaporate it. It won't. It will cease to exist in my presence.
Yeah.
And that's not arrogance. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. It's just how it is. And I've got a good 50 plus years of experience with this, where the only time I think that I've ever felt fear has been in circumstances that were several times in my life that were life-threatening, and I just didn't want to die in pain. But I faced it anyway, and I grabbed the steering wheel, and something guided my car off the road in a snowstorm that literally broke my windshield wipers and trapped me on a major highway surrounded by 18-wheelers.
Yeah.
And I felt fear in those moments, but I also felt a calm, if I just don't want to die in pain. I know I'm going to die now, but I just don't want to die in pain. Let it be, quick. And something literally warm put its hands over mine and steered my car to safety off the highway. I don't know who that was or what that was, but I had to confront that fear before that actually happened. I couldn't cave into it. I just had to steel myself for what was coming, what I just knew was coming. There was no way I was getting out of that situation alive, and yet here I am.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And on the other side of it, I mean, just like everything that I've been through in my life, and the things that I've been through in my life look like, a Sunday picnic compared to what many people have gone through. I'm not here to boast in my sufferings and claim that I've, been to hell and back, but relative to my experience of life, I have, right? And what I can tell you is that who I was on this side of fear versus who I became on this side of fear. almost two different creatures, almost different species, like almost unrecognizable. You know, I'm not a big video game person. My wife is the video game person in our family. I like it, and I wish I had the time to play it. I just don't really have the time to play video games. But you know, you start a video game off, and you might be this, you're just this average character. But as you go through and you face challenges and you face trials, you unlock different skills. You start off the game, all you can do is run and jump. Okay, but you face this challenge, you face that challenge. Now you can jump higher. Now you can run faster. Now you've got more gear and more equipment. Eventually, maybe you can fly, or God knows what else. But it's like, it's the facing of these challenges. It's overcoming these obstacles. It's pushing through these trials that unlocks this potential that's in you. It's always there. It's not coming to you from the outside. It's in you. It just simply needs to be unlocked. And it's unlocked. I mean, I think, you know, like the observer effect thing works. It's like when I realize, oh, that situation didn't crush me the way that I thought it was going to crush me, all of a sudden I observe a strength in me that I didn't observe before. And then when I observe it, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and it grows. And then the next time I face a similar situation, I'm like, I've faced something like this before. I know who I am. I know that I'm strong, and I face it. And so I observe strength in myself again. And then that strength steps forward and manifests itself in my life. And it's like, so it's always there. It's been there all along. I just didn't know it was there because I hadn't been in a place where I needed to access it.
Well, it hadn't been tested.
Exactly. Right. And then once it's tested, and once I know it's there, now I can call upon it and access it whenever I need it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, all of that might seem pretty obvious, but it's one thing to know that as a principle, and it's another thing to have experienced it and actually see it at work in your life, you know?
Well, I think that one of the true values of discussing this is that, you know, nothing like stating the obvious, but fear is a human emotion.
Yeah.
And so we feel it far more than we think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you take it out of the realm of being an overwhelming emotion, and you lay it on, you know, a stainless steel slab to be absorbed and experienced and examined as though it was a patient on a table.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way and you see its components and you think about it, it stops being a visceral reaction and it becomes a cerebral exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in that way, I guess, and to a certain extent, we put it in our place by giving it the thought that it deserves, because it is that powerful and has that kind of an impact and effect on human beings. Yeah. It's so much an integral part of our nature. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we don't have any qualms about examining love, you know, the myriad ways that love manifests and expresses in our lives and our world, whether it's a little dinky dog in our lap, or it's, you know, our extended family, or it's our friends that we've embraced over the course of our lifetime, or it's a beautiful sunset, or it's a flower that just shot up through a crack in cement. You know, love takes so many different forms. It has so many different voices. Yeah. And it is, I always say, you know, love, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's a noun, but it's not actually, it's a verb. It's an action word. And the way for it to fully express is that you need to be its vehicle of expression. So it is by our actions, you know, our simple acts of kindness toward each other, our ability to express ourselves in word and deed in the most benevolent, altruistic way possible, is something that we strive to attain. unconditional love. You don't have to do this, 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 and this in order for me to love you. I love you because you exist.
Yeah.
And when we attain that level of consciousness of love, or what I like to refer to as higher love, that connection that I have with the cosmos, for instance, I perceive to be higher love. What I feel is different than earthly love. It doesn't mean it's more or less profound. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's just higher, in terms of looking up into the sky, but it's also a higher level of understanding the profundity, the true significance of love and the unconditional aspects of it. Loving other beings merely because they exist, feeling their love, though you don't know where that is emanating from. I have often wondered about the quark theorem in quantum physics, quantum mechanics, the quark theorem being that scientists are looking for the God particle. I hope George is still with us, because the Higgs boson, everything going on at CERN, that's part of it, looking for that God particle. And there are some scientists who believe that love itself is the glue that holds the molecules together that create the existence that we see. I just read a report a couple of days ago in applied mechanics, or I read lots of weird stuff. But there's a scientists that have measured our solar system. And if there was any extra moon or something were to suddenly shift its rotation in the solar system, it would be like upsetting a table of marbles. Like, everything would be thrown out of its rotation around the sun. It would skew the balance of our perfect solar system. I think it's safe to assume that there are a bajillion solar systems just like ours or similar to ours that function that same way. And disrupting, even with, a moon the size of our little moon, adding that into the mix or removing it from the mix would basically fracture our solar system. We'd go off spinning out into space or crashing into the sun. It was designed perfectly to function exactly the way that it does to support life on this planet at this time. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes, I agree. That's all I got for that. I agree. Yes, that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, and then, of course, there's the news coming out of the Department of Defense yesterday. I think it was yesterday afternoon or evening, that was printed in the Military Times. Oh, hold on, I can't read. I don't have someone's at the front door. Be right back. Oh, it's Tony. Okay. I probably shouldn't have read that out loud, but I did. So it's done. Somebody's at Tony's front door. Oh, and by the way, we're expecting an Amazon delivery sometime before 10 o'clock, and there's no guarantee that it will come. But if it does, you'll get to hear both dogs lose their minds simultaneously.
My Alexa's already gone off twice saying motion at the front door, so I don't know if anybody heard that. So it's okay. It's just going around tonight.
I just don't understand why Amazon's delivering stuff at 10 o'clock at night. There's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But anyway, hopefully they can't find the place. It is kind of remote. Not remote like the farmhouse, but still kind of remote. No, I think that there is great value, Jeff, in examining these things. When we do Soul School every week together, we always begin the show with classes in session, and we very often talk about the lessons that we've learned over the course of, the previous week. Ooh, hot. It's hot down here in Georgia. I'm sorry. I don't mean to throw that in your face. I know you're having a snowstorm. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Hey, we've got power though, so that's good.
And that's good.
Last week we got hit again and everybody's power got blown out, but thus far tonight, we're good to go. So
Yep, you got internet, you got electricity, life is good. Coffee,
yes.
uh-huh.
Yep.
But I forgot what I was saying, and it was actually kind of, good. What was I saying? I don't remember. Okay. It'll come to me. Oh, okay. All right. Now I remember. I think that there is inherent value in sharing these things. We begin the show with classes in session. We always end the show with class dismissed. But that's only that little segmented hour that we spent putting these ideas out and, kicking them around with our viewers. Tony will sit there and put up comments as they come through the chat, which I always very much appreciate. Questions. And if anybody has any questions, wait till Tony gets back and you can ask them and he'll put them up for you. But I think that there is inherent value in thinking. One of the I wrote my thesis in college. In order to get my degree in philosophy, I went to one of the 10 colleges and universities in America that requires basically a thesis for a BA instead of a master's degree. Because, if you can achieve, you can overachieve. And mine was on existentialism because I wanted to explore that, even though, because of growing up in a haunted environment, which I think was informed a lot of how you developed intellectually in a precocious way at a young age, thinking through a lot of things. I was attracted to metaphysical writers, to transcendentalists. I was attracted to, the otherworldly, not horror per se, but Lovecraft, Hawthorne, Emerson, Thoreau, Whitman. These were my literary mentors. These are the people that I sought out to gain alternate perspectives, to try to look at everything around the singular situation that I was growing up in, to see if I could make some sense of it. Well, technically, if we are all surrounded by spirit all the time, then we don't just live in a quote unquote haunted house. We live in a metaphysical, physical plane of action. That more about our existence is metaphysical than it is physical. But until we begin to explore that concept, and until we begin to look at our old reality with our new eyes, including the third, and open that aspect up, that aperture up, then we don't really live fully, because we don't see, that we can only see inside the egg. The whole chicken and the egg thing, it has to peck its way out of its own egg, because the strength that it will build and the energy required for it to peck its way out is what ultimately will give it the strength to survive on the outside of the enclosure. But while it's on the inside of the enclosure, that's all that it can see, kind of like the whole Batman thing.
Right.
It doesn't know it has, as it's growing in this little egg, it doesn't know that there's something beyond that egg.
Right.
And then it grows and matures a little bit more, and it starts to get kind of tight in there. And then the instinct kicks in, let me tap on this wall and see if there's something on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any fear involved for the little chick. I don't know if they have the same emotional makeup as we do. I have seen fear in animals. I have, and rightfully so. Nothing quite like the lineup at a slaughterhouse where all those animals know that they're about to die, and they know they are about to die. It is horrific. absolutely horrific. I have seen fear in the animal kingdom, but I don't know if that little chick feels fear or if it just feels cramped.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, it doesn't even matter because something tells it to tap on the wall of its prison. Tap on the wall, start punching a hole in this wall. Wow, this wall, it looks all solid, but it's got some give to it. And I'm strong enough. Take that beak and start pecking that little tiny hole in that egg. And in no time, it understands that it exists in a much bigger universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I read something that just came to me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I love when you do that.
And so it was because you were talking about the chicken and the egg. I was literally reading this as I was logging on tonight. I was Khalil Gibran's The Prophet is just one of my favorite books.
I've got that memorized. Yeah.
Next month, actually, the company I'm working with, we're republishing a new edition of it. So I've been really living in it. I'm really excited about it. But I was reading this particular passage, and it just reminded me when you were talking, it came back to me. So I'm going to say it. Maybe it applies to someone. I'm going to read. It's like a paragraph, if you don't mind if I read it.
Go right ahead, sweetheart. I love this.
Okay.
Cool. So it's like being in school and the teacher's reading from the book.
Yeah. And a woman spoke, saying, "Tell us of pain." And he said, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility, for his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings, though it burn your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears." I don't know why, but that was really hitting me hard before we got on tonight. And then as you were talking about the chicken and the egg, that just came back to me. And so maybe somebody listening to this tonight, well, in fact, I could just say this in a real obvious, casting a wide net way. Of course, somebody listening to this tonight is experiencing profound pain in your life.
Yes.
And it could be for a number of reasons that I don't even necessarily need to speculate on, but it could be because of loss, whether that's loss of life, loss of a relationship, just loss of a season of life, loss of a certain way of experiencing life. I don't know what. There could be any number of things that you're going through, but you're going through profound pain tonight. Somebody, I just will say this. I feel like somebody within the last 3 days, you've received some kind of news, and I'll leave it at that. And you have been in a world of pain for the last 3 days specifically. I just want to tell you exactly what Andrea said prior to my reading that is what's happening to you. You are on the verge of discovering a world that your mind can't even conceive of existing right now. And that's a really hard thing to comfort yourself with right now when you're in this place of pain. And so it really doesn't even mean anything for me to say this to you, but there will come a moment, maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year, where you find yourself on the other side of the real bitter part of this experience, where you will look around you and be awestruck by just how vast and massive your world has become. And in that moment, you'll remember this experience tonight, where you were told beforehand what was happening, and you will say, I understand now. I understand now. And sometimes a word like this can't be comforting in the moment because there's just far too much going on right now to be comforted.
Yes.
But it will happen. And I just want to give, if nothing else, just inject a little bit of hope into your life. And even if you're not the person who I referred to when I said 3 days specifically, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
That was just maybe for someone specifically. But if
But
you're
we
in that
all
place
feel
of
pain.
profound pain, I just want you to know that you really are. There is something. Sorry.
It's okay.
There is something in you that is driving you to persevere despite what you're experiencing. And it is, as Gibran said, the physician inside attempting to heal the sick self. Your pain is the chipping away. It's that. Just listen to me. Please hear me. This will not last forever. The pain won't. Maybe the effects of the experience will, but the pain as you're feeling it right now won't last forever. And you will find yourself on the other side of the extreme bitterness of this experience. And you will find yourself standing proverbially under a massive sky full of stars, feeling the vastness and hugeness of the universe that you could not feel prior to this experience, because this is the breaking of the shell, the breaking of the egg. And I just wanted to encourage somebody with that tonight. If that means something to you, take it. If it doesn't, just hope it does for somebody else, I suppose. But I just wanted to say that.
I love Jeff. I really love you. I mean, I see you as an oracle, as a seer, as a seeker, as a scholar, as a prophet, as a truly enlightened man, transcendental in every way. And I so appreciate you in my life and my ability to share you with others. I feel like I'm just handing a gift out to the world that was given to me. I don't even remember how we met, how we connected. I don't. It's like it was a billion years ago. It doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a gift from God. You are. And all that you've been through. There he is. There he is. All that you've been through will serve so well to enlighten others. And you know, here's another one. Here's another bright light in the firmament.
Oh my.
Pentecostal.
Good evening. How are you?
Darling.
Doing well. I hope everybody's good. I was just listening to you both, listening to the messages, and kind of why I want to, because you bring such positivity that we want to try to amplify that, you know. So I'll let you, hi Melissa, we'll let you make the requisite announcements. But it's funny, you know, I was sitting here listening about animals, you know, and the thing that dawned on me immediately was genetic remnants, that they're present in animals too.
Yeah.
Which is why there's an inherent fear in lots of animals, because I think that genetically those memories exist, you know, very much so like they do in us. When we talk about matrixing and pareidolia and things like that, the ability to see shapes and familiar shapes in chaos is a remnant from our days as Neanderthals, to be able to perceive perhaps an enemy in the shadows lurking as a threat, to be able to make out faces, you know. So I would say with animals, it's much the same, that we have those remnants in our DNA.
Well, we are, and we all share instinct and intuition.
Of course.
Mean, you know, look at the huge tsunami that hit, you know, when the stupid humans decided to run out and look at what was in the sand when all the water just disappeared off the beach and went out to sea. All the animals immediately turned in the opposite direction and started heading to higher ground. Mm-hmm. The animals didn't die in that tsunami. The people did.
Yeah, animals are tapped into the natural magnetic fields of the earth, which is why they say cows face north and things like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so instinctually, unfortunately, we have too many filters up.
Yeah.
Sometimes to recognize the instincts that lie within us. You know, some people manage to tap in to that vibration and others don't. Animals seem to have it inherently
Yeah, they
within
know.
them. You know, they're not busy watching 24/7 cable all day. So
No, they're not. Although, I'm guilty of that myself. So, let's not cast aspersions. There's a lot of shit to keep up with lately. Oh my
much.
God. Yeah.
By the way, Jeff, pleasure to meet you. How are you?
You as well, Ken.
We didn't know each other. I thought you knew each other.
No, I just went into my soliloquy here, and so
Well,
Hey, great to meet you as well, man. Great to meet you.
yeah, and you
Jeff,
as well.
Ken and I have known each other, I don't know, at least a dozen years. When we met in a wonderfully inhabited house, haunted, for lack of a better word, in Coventry, Rhode Island, called the Payne House. And as soon as I met Ken, he played an EVP for me that he had captured at the farm. And he played the EVP, and I just looked at him and I said, I recognize that voice. And that was it. We were off and running. I mean, we were just like, kismet, immediate attachment, read each other's minds, immediate, feelings of emotional recognition between us. He got me, I got him. We are one. And he is the founder of Rise Up Paranormal, which is, I believe, the largest paranormal group. You're in all 6 New England states now, are you not?
Except for Vermont, but we're working on it.
Oh yeah, well,
We're trying to get the hippies to come around up there.
Well, they're busy building fires and passing the peace pipe. So what are you gonna do?
They don't need us. They're fine.
They really don't. They kind of live in their own netherworld anyway up there. But yeah, Ken and I go way back, Jeff. And the big announcement and the reason that I wanted Ken to join us tonight is because he very kindly extended an invitation to us. So starting next week, not only will Soul School air hand in hand with A World Awakening every Friday night from 9 to 11 Eastern, but we will be simulcasting on Dead Air Full Spectrum, which is the network that Ken and George Lopez, my co-author on In a Flicker. I know I've mentioned that 100 times. Great book, by the way, anybody. I'm not for nothing. It wasn't my idea. I wrote the book predominantly in terms of the literary aspects of it, but it was 100% George's idea. Nothing I would ever have come up with.
Yeah.
So if you've got the stomach for a murder mystery, please order In a Flicker and read it. It will change the way you think about a lot of things. But yeah, Ken and George have created this wonderful network, Dead Air Full Spectrum, and they have tons of, a real eclectic mix of guests on their show. And they're bringing other people into the mix, including Cody and Satori and others. And so it is, you say it's an honor to be here with me on a Friday night. Well, it's my honor to be invited onto to Dead Air. And that's where I started. Talk about coming full circle.
That's it.
That is where I began a Blog Talk audio show with George Lopez maybe 8 years ago now, called The World Awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you stay in the same place long enough, everybody you know in your life will pass. So everything comes full circle. But yeah, I mean, we're very, very happy to be able to do that. And again, it's a matter of amplifying your voices. Because anybody who's visited our channel know that, of course, we have our talk show on Sundays. And Mondays are your friend and mine, Chris Rondina. Fantastic author.
Oh, he's wonderful. And what a storyteller. Yep. I mean, what a grasp of the English language the man has. Mm-hmm. Holy cow.
Yeah. So, and he'll soon be back to Europe. He's heading to France to research the beast of Gévaudan.
Oh.
That legend.
Yeah, he's been fascinated with that forever.
Yes.
Since childhood.
Werewolf Legends, The Headless Horseman, and on Mondays he and Ron get into legend hunting, the truth behind the legends, whether it's vampires, Frankenstein, whatever. Fascinating show. And Cody Satori and you folks coming on Fridays, and Melissa St. Hilaire pretty soon with her show from the West Coast, Secrets of the Craft. So there's it's very eclectic. We love the diversity. We love the messages that people bring. There's comedy, there's spirituality, there's everything, I think, that makes up who we are. And I think we represent all of us, all genders, all backgrounds. So we are so very happy that, KGRA is going to share you with us, and you are going to share yourself with our audience. And I know that they're dying to, you're going to introduce yourself to a new audience. And I will say that they are very smart.
Yeah,
we
they
are
are
very, very objective, very receptive, and just
Well,
I hate when they ask better questions than I do.
I know. Don't you hate when that happens? Oh, God.
That.
I kind of count on it, actually. But no, I mean, really, Dead Air is as multifaceted as a finely cut diamond. It has every way that you turn and you look at that stone, you get a different perspective, a different viewpoint, and it expands your frame of reference overall for the entire piece. And I'm just I'm so proud to be affiliated. And I think, it'll be good for KGRA. This is really all about, embracing each other, coming hand in hand, crossing a threshold into a higher level. It's a technological, spiritual ascension that is about to occur.
Yeah, I like the idea of just giving everybody a little bit of something else in their life, a little positivity, a little humor. It's okay. We have a lot of laughs, the way we are. We're kind of cut ups, and just getting all these different perspectives. And Jeff, I mean, welcome to the family. It's you'll find as we do our little StreamYard chats and our, meetings every once in a while to see how everybody's doing, that it's just such a good group of people. So welcome again. Can't wait to get started. So,
well, I'm honored. Thank you.
No, the honor is mine. I just backstage, I'm sitting in the Blue Room, just listening to the conversation. And all of a sudden, that's why it's like, before we even say anything, I have to talk about animals and pareidolia. And, that's the way my mind works. So
I think that ultimately, the reason that it will be such a good fit, Ken has already touched on, and that is that you're really no better than your audience in terms of what you are putting out into the world. And we have been truly blessed. Tony and I, with A World Awakening, going all the way back to when it was Blog Talk Radio with George, to have these really intelligent, erudite, sentient, prescient beings who engage, who lock in and lock on. That doesn't mean they're going to agree with everything that we say. I've never asked that of anyone, nor have you. All I merely want is for them to think along with us, to think. When I was in college, one of the, I did my thesis on existentialism, Camus, Simone de Beauvoir, Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialists was an area of real interest for me, because I was already so overwhelmed by life. It was like the only thing that made sense was you have this moment and this moment only, and that is your reality, and that is your existence, and that is all that matters, is this moment right now, and it's never the same moment twice, not ever. And go with the flow and ride the wave, because you don't know where it's going to take you. The universe knows the way. We don't. So that appealed to me. But another thing that appealed to me was Rene Descartes. I got a thing for French people, probably because I'm half French. And the whole notion of I think, therefore I am. I could say it in Latin, but everybody would, say, "Oh, now she's just
Didn't run away, right?
So I'll skip the Latin. Jeff can do that. Jeff can get away with that. I cannot.
I appreciate that.
But I think, therefore I am. And I took it and I flipped it on its head. And I wrote my essay, I am, therefore I think. And just took his whole thesis, the whole premise of his literary work, and flipped it like a fish on a dock at Galilee in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
Galilee is not just in Israel. We have our own in Rhode Island.
We have our own. Yeah.
Mr. DaCosta, do we not? Oh, let's go there when I come up.
We have places called Wampanoag, Quanaketag.
Yeah.
They're very, very Narragansett, First Nation type of,
Yeah.
But don't we all?
Mashantucket,
I think
Pequot. Yeah.
Yeah, Pequot. No, I think the thing that we have tried to do is create a space for people, because the underlying thing that I think we all share in doing these broadcasts is that being mindful that there's someone out there going through something.
Yes. Precisely.
And, I listened to your message and immediately, it grabbed me. It did, because one of the things we do, we love to have guests on. Some of these are, your A-list type celebrities, but we like to ask them questions where they'll go, wow, that's a good question, or nobody ever asked me that before.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, there's a message to be given, because somewhere out there may be one person who's watching us that night that's going through something similar. Excuse me. And sometimes we can handle it with a little bit of humor, a little bit of levity to kind of lift the pall that they have, that they're experiencing. But the deeper message is you're not alone.
Yeah.
There may be somebody experiencing the same thing. Now, obviously we have geared ourselves more toward the metaphysical, the paranormal, and that's fine. That's our interests in it. But the deeper thing is when people welcome us into their homes and take the time to watch, we want to be able to make sure that we give them something of value, even if it is just a laugh. But people that are having experiences, you know what I'm talking about, Annie. How many people come to you and say, I'm going through something similar that you did as a child in Rhode Island? And a lot of times they're not maybe looking for the answers, but they're looking for a sounding board. They're just looking because they're speaking in a vacuum all the time. People aren't listening to them.
And deserve to be heard.
Right. It's just like an echo chamber of, get over it. But these things don't have to be rooted in the paranormal. They can be rooted in interpersonal relationships. And I'm not a psychologist. I don't pretend to be one, but been kicking around in this long enough that I heard people. So ultimately that's what we're doing it for. We're not just doing it for our, classic good looks that we all possess. We like to think there's something a little bit deeper, and, if we have a few laughs and lift somebody, what's the difference?
We lift each other's spirits.
Yeah.
And that's the most important function that I believe that we serve. And Jeff, do you remember when we were sitting at the UFO Contact in Houghton Lake, Michigan, Deb and RJ DeRuse's wonderful event? And and I asked you if you would like to work with me and, do something. And I didn't even know yet that it could be a show. Yeah. I hadn't even envisioned quite what the working together part looked like yet. Mm-hmm. But I knew that it was coming, and I remember how receptive you were to that. And what we talked about was the message and how best to get the message out. Well, till I draw my last breath, I will be grateful that the internet did not crash at the beginning of COVID and that it ultimately provided us a venue. I mean, with KGRA and now with Dead Air and all the other platforms that this airs on, we get messages literally from around the world every week. I don't, I mean, I can get a message from Kuala Lumpur. I dare me to find it on the globe, on the map. I mean, I just dare me to go find it.
Right.
And yet I feel such an attachment to that person that reaches out and says, this was exactly what I needed to hear tonight. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Who knew there was a huge paranormal community in Iceland? Who knew that there were a group of people in Australia and New Zealand that watch our show live, having breakfast in the morning on Saturday?
We're big in Sweden.
Are you big in Sweden?
We're constantly getting messages from a wonderful lady named Christina who's spreading the word out there. And
oh, I might know her.
I mean, who knows? Jurgen Sins, or I'm murdering her last name, but who knew? And it's like 2 a.m. out there.
Yeah, and they're up. We have people in France and the UK that are watching us right now. Yeah. They stay up till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the show live so that they can hop into the chat room.
And something else? Here's something to warm your heart in looking at the algorithms that we do, because you pay a little bit of attention to that. I think
you go ahead.
Right, the third largest viewership over the past 28 days on our channel is the Ukraine.
Oh my God, really? Oh God, oh Jeff.
And I mean, you just think for a minute about that? Are you kidding me?
I know. Oh my God, bless them. Oh God, bless them.
I was blown away. When I saw it, it was the United States, and then I don't know, England or so, and there's the Ukraine. Like, so if there's one person in the Ukraine that just laughs or gets a lift from it, one person, but that was phenomenal. That just was humbling. Like,
yeah. You
would not believe, to see that. And it brought a smile to my face a little bit too. It's like,
well, I hope I hope, oh, please, anybody in Ukraine that cares to reach out to any of us, please feel free to do it. Oh, my heart breaks, but beyond my heartbreak about this incredible, I don't have a single nice word to say about, we said never again, and then that was a lie, because here we are in a war in Western Europe that this was not supposed to happen. And I'm sick to death of maniacal, genocidal rulers that think that life is meaningless to them. And in fact, they enjoy inflicting suffering and pain on others. It's a sickness, a twisted mindset that needs to be cleansed from this planet. And I would personally volunteer to do it myself. Put me in a room with Putin. I know I'm bigger than he is. That for sure. I know I am bigger because he's like that big. And his tiny little penis and his tiny little ego have really gotten the better of him. And, his great jerk off is to see if he can decimate and turn a beautiful 1,000-year-old civilization to fucking rubble.
Because it makes much sense to destroy the natural resources of land that you're trying to take over, that you're trying to acquire. Contaminate it, pollute it, destroy it, and then acquire it.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, okay,
it doesn't make
I don't
much
want to
sense.
spend the rest of the next hour talking about this because, oh my God, our time's almost up anyway. Because I feel it so profoundly. But I invite anyone. Ken, I'm really happy to know that. And let's next week, Jeff. Let's do Soul School about this subject. Okay, and what have we learned? See, my perspective on this is that we, humanity, haven't learned a damn thing if this is happening again. We haven't learned anything. And so there are times that I do feel hopeless, and yet I see the resilience of these people who are going through this horrific experience, this absolutely traumatizing. I'm traumatized. And, I don't have cruise missiles landing in my house. I know. So let's address this next week on Soul School. And again, thoughts are things. So let's project our thoughts and our best intention for the people of Ukraine, the peace-loving, non-provoking people that were attacked for no good reason, and let us do everything in our power to lift them up and bring what is toxic to the light to be cleansed. Let us do that. And that is how we will begin our jump start on Dead Air Full Spectrum. I love the name because it is full spectrum. It is. It encompasses all things because, as I believe, everything is one thing, and it's existence, and it is consciousness. And we can give it a few other words that are basically that inclusive. But ultimately, I think it is by the achieving of the realization of oneness for all humanity, one human race, that we redevelop something that has been lost to many, which is empathy. The ability to put ourselves in the shoes of others. And so I think that that's something that we should address next week. And I am so grateful to have this opportunity to reach back into the coffers of an audience that, a few years ago, by necessity, I had to leave behind in terms of a World Awakening audio, but then felt the need to reboot the show, and then felt the need to couple with you to create Soul School, because I felt a disturbance in the force. I felt a void. I felt that there was a need to be fulfilled, and humbly do whatever I can, week by week, month by month, year by year, to throw pebbles into the pond and create a ripple effect that can be felt worldwide, eventually, and I believe inevitably, so that we lift each other up. And, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, in our last, we have about maybe 10, 12 minutes left. I would like you to, kind of bring us down to a conclusion here tonight. And I want to share with our viewers on A World Awakening what we frequently do on Soul School, which is a kind of without our singing bowls. We don't have our singing bowls, courtesy of Chris Carpenter tonight, but, still kind of a meditative, reflective few moments to leave people with as we close out the show and prepare for this next quantum leap that we'll be making next week into Dead Air. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of a sermon.
Yeah.
lack of a better word. Yes.
Right on. Well, we talked about a lot of things tonight. We went all over the map, but one of the things we started off talking about was the acceptance of what is happening, of what is, as opposed to trying to change it and alter it. Because the more we try to change and alter the situation and the circumstance we're in, oftentimes what happens is the more we just screw it up, the worse it gets. But when we're able to stop and be still and know that I am God. In order to know God, one has to be still. So in order to perceive the divine that's always at hand and is always present, one must be still. And stillness speaks of acceptance. Stillness speaks of calming down. And instead of trying to separate the head and the tail of the serpent, just let the thing spin and observe what's beautiful within it. Right. So we talked about that a lot. And then we got into talking about here just the purpose of the show and the purpose of the things that we've been trying to accomplish and that you've been trying to accomplish, that we've all been trying to accomplish in different ways for decades. But that really, at the end of the day, it's about the individual who is watching and listening, who might be suffering, who might be enduring hell that we can't imagine.
Yes.
And to, for a few moments, feel connected to a larger whole, for an hour, for 2 hours, to feel that they're not alone. Maybe they're going through things like what we grew up going through, things more of a paranormal nature. I'll tell you what, it's not always just been someone telling me, hey, I'm there for you when you're going through a trying time. I went through things when I was young that I had no explanation for, that didn't fit neatly into my Christian paradigm. And when I just simply heard other people tell their stories without tying it off with some great lesson at the end, just simply telling their stories and realizing there are other sane, sound individuals out there who have endured similar things, who are sane and sound individuals. That alone is so affirming and life-changing, just to know you're not alone. And so I guess what I want to say to kind of bring anything full circle tonight is just that you're seen and you're loved exactly as you are. And you can accept the moment and the situation you're in for exactly what it is, knowing that at some point in time, you will see it. Okay, so here's what I want to say. There's this great story. There's this great illustration in the Gospels. I'm sorry, I use Christian language a lot. It's just my mother tongue. So I don't believe the way I once believed when it comes to all of this stuff, but it's the sort of spiritual clip art I use when I'm creating whatever it is I create, because it's what I'm most familiar with. So there's this great story. There's this individual named Nathaniel in Scripture, and he's told of Jesus, and he says of Jesus, oh, he's from Nazareth. Nothing good can come from Nazareth. So he has a bias against Jesus because of where he's from. And then he meets Jesus. He encounters Jesus, and Jesus says, oh, here's a true Israelite, in whom there is no guile. And he says, I saw you when you were sitting under the fig tree. And all of a sudden, this individual who just a few sentences prior was saying nothing good can come out of Nazareth, once Jesus says to him, I see you and I know you exactly where you are, his tune changes and he says, oh, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus says to him, you believe because I told you I saw you sitting under the fig tree? I tell you, you're going to see greater things than this. There's a whole lot you could extrapolate from that passage. But what I always leave when I read that feeling is that Jesus was taken aback by how little it took to transform this individual. This individual who's singing this tune 1 second and singing this totally different tune, a couple seconds later, all because Jesus said, I see you and I know you. I see you. And that changed everything. For this individual to be seen, it changed everything. And Jesus himself is shocked. He's like, that's all it took? You believe because I told you this? And it's amazing how little encouragement people actually need. It's amazing, people who could feel like they're going through, like they're in the seventh level of a hell, that if somebody just tells them, hey, or if they just through a show like this, just feel connected for a moment to a larger whole, sometimes that's all it takes, and it takes so very little. We think it takes so much, but it doesn't. It can be one comment. It can be one thing that we say accidentally that wasn't even intentional, that we weren't even trying to make a point. It takes so very little. And so for those who are listening tonight, without knowing any situations, without knowing any circumstances, I just want to say that you are seen and that you are beloved in your situation, exactly as you are, without changing a thing about yourself. You are perfect as you are. Yeah, you're going to continue to grow in perfection. You're going to continue to become a more perfect version of yourself, but you as you are right now is 100% accepted and beloved and embraced by the divine. Whatever name you give it, I don't care. It doesn't care either. You are loved and you are held exactly as you are, and you can accept yourself. You can accept your circumstances. You can accept your situation for exactly what it is, and that's sometimes easier said than done. But I just want to plant that seed in your heart and in your mind and in your soul that you can, and that you will one day, and it probably won't be this day, but you will one day understand what I'm saying to you right now, because it won't hurt the way it hurts right now forever.
Right.
It won't feel forever the way that it feels right now. And I don't know. I just wanted to say that. And I hope that was meaningful to somebody. And I hope that meant something to somebody.
I find that, the powerful words that we use, the three most powerful words in our language are I love you, but I believe you are equally powerful. And when people open up and they share with us experiences that they might not have, and you've had this happen to you as well, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with you when it did. When somebody tells you something that they've never shared with anybody else.
Yeah.
Because they sense that we are trustworthy. They sense that we're not going to take their traumatic experience or their life-altering experience and go, print it on the internet and send it all over through cyberspace, that it's personal. It's between us. And when I embrace a human being and I say, I believe you, let go of your pain, give it to me. I won't hold on to it. It will not harm me.
Yeah.
Just give it to me as a gift and relieve yourself of that burden. And that is transformational. And that's what each and every one of us brings. Tony, please come in for the last moment so that we can say a proper, not fair, just not goodbye, just so long and farewell. So long, farewell, goodbye. You will be back with us.
Yes.
Tony, I love you. I love you, my beautiful, wonderful, incredible men. Thank you to George Lopez as well for welcoming us back into the fold at Dead Air, now Full Spectrum. Thank you for everything. And Tony, I'll be seeing you soon, sooner than later. Ken, I'll see you pretty soon too. Jeff, always my heart. So we have a double duty to do tonight. If we're ending Soul School, we always end it with class dismissed. And you will see that next week in our 9 to 10 time slot. But we always end a world awakening with the same loving thought. And that is to be the light that you seek. And with that, I wish you all a very pleasant good night. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Make it so. Good night, everyone.